All right, this is the City of Binghamton Human Rights Commission. The date is March 13th, 2025 at 8:07 p.m. We're calling this meeting to order. And if we can go around the room for roll call, starting with Dr. Yo.
Okay, so I'm Denise Yo.
Christopher Scott.
Hussein Adams.
Thank you. And I'm John Brunza, Chair of the committee.
I'm Councilman Nate Hotchkiss,
All right, thank you,
Joining.
Councilman.
joining as an observer.
Thank you. So if we turn to the minutes, has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting, which was February 20th?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, do we have any amendments to the minutes? Or will we be entertaining a motion to approve?
No amendments.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Motion to approve, okay, do we have a second?
So.
Okay, second by Mr. Adams. All right, with all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, unanimously approved. So I will, moving on to the next agenda item. You guys put your trust in me as chair at last meeting, and I've appreciated that, and so I took the opportunity to kind of make some calls on our behalf. I spoke with the mayor. We had a very nice conversation. It was a very cordial call. He expressed that he was pleased with the city council's selections for the committee. That he had familiarized ourselves with himself with all of the members. And he seemed to suggest that because of the city council selections, he would be more comfortable moving forward with filling the vacant seats. I'm hopeful that he'll follow through and do that.
That's 3 additional appointments.
Yeah, which would definitely alleviate some of our quorum issues, and
Yeah.
you know, the more the merrier, the more ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for me about the call with the mayor?
Does he have a timeline?
That's what I was wondering.
Looking at?
He didn't provide a timeline, but it's a good idea to follow up with him. He said, give me some time because I haven't looked at those applications in quite a while. And he's got to dust those off, I guess.
So is he looking at the applications that were submitted to the council?
That was my interpretation of, yeah.
Well, what's our timeline for him? You're not like ultimatum, but just in terms of how long we wait before we reach back out to him.
Yeah, I'm open to doing that, very, this week. At least do an email, hey, have you given
Yeah.
any more thought to applications and appointments? I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe starting with a follow-up was, we had our first meeting.
Yeah.
Thursday evening, blah, blah, blah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Especially because if we're going to be receiving training, it would be helpful
If we were all here.
Yeah.
if we were all here. You know, we want to dive into training and
I think that should be emphasized. That,
Yeah.
we're preparing to start training. We had our first meeting,
Mhm.
and
I agree.
we'd like to have the full body
good idea.
present.
Anything else with the mayor's office?
No.
The other thing I would add is that there's no like limitations about people that you could like refer to him.
Yeah.
For other people that you think would be good to have on this commission. We had a list and we made our own deadlines to try to select people, but it's like there's no formal
Right.
Deadline.
deadline.
Yeah.
So people could still apply, but you say.
You could still apply, or if you know
Through the mayor's
folks who
office.
you think would be good, you could pass. those.
Can you say how many applications were sent to him, or how many he has to look at, the selection pool that he selected? Approximately.
I'm gonna say like 20 was what city council had.
20 total.
Oh, okay.
That's a
Yeah,
good number.
I hope that there's some selection made from.
You guys are good, man.
And they have
Selected out of
complete.
it. Selected. Made it out of.
You made
first
it
draft.
draft,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cause he now has the whole package, you'll have their, the resume, the CV.
Right.
And also too, if, I mean, we know a lot of community members as well. If he wants to give us from those remaining 15, 16,
right.
his top 7, 6, I'd say, guys want to give any feedback on, you're more than willing
Yeah,
and, to look over.
I think it would be, yeah, anything that we can do to smooth the process for him, more, I know that, he's perhaps had a different vision of this body, but those voices are welcome too. I think the more the merrier to, pay attention to these issues. Okay. So in addition to a call with the mayor, I also had a call with Corporation Counsel, Mr. Heary. Attorney Heary expressed a willingness to offer us training materials, particularly with open meeting.
I asked you, how do you spell hearing?
Heary.
Yeah. There's. I can offer you this.
Okay.
And an extra copy, but it's just like spark notes on open meetings law.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
so
yeah,
this is my quick solution.
that's very helpful, thank you. So he was very helpful,
That's good.
we also, there's some recognition there that if there is a complaint made about an entity of the city, then he becomes kind of an adversary in that process. He almost becomes a party to it. So there's that recognition that, he can help us out to a point, I think. I think that they also expressed an importance that we're independent, and because of the possibility that complaints could be coming into the city, that we should have in our an element of independence about us as well. Of course. And lastly, I also spoke to the clerks, the clerk of courts, Sarah Dinhofer.
City
and-
clerk.
Hmm?
So don't get your
City-
clerks,
yeah,
don't get your
yeah,
clerks
yeah,
mixed up,
yeah.
the city clerk.
The city clerk, I appreciate the correction.
Sarah, what?
Sarah Dinhofer. And
How do you spell it?
Dinhofer.
Oh, I had to ask. I think that's the right guy.
She's the city clerk.
She's the city clerk, yes. She was very helpful in terms of logistics and scheduling meetings, agendas, and minutes. And just so that we're all aware, it's generally about 2 days in advance of the meetings. We want to have the minutes in from the previous meeting, and we want to have a draft agenda. And she'll formalize those because they also need to be, and our meetings need to be announced publicly, right? They need to be put on the website. So that gives time for moving parts and different departments to be notified about those sort of things. And I think that largely summarizes my conversations that I've had with the different entities. Anything further on that before we move on to the next item in the agenda?
Nope,
Which is,
thank you.
Before you go back, Nate just handed those, it's like one copy.
yeah, perhaps we can make copies after the meeting. and return those to them. That looks like a binder copy that would.
Yeah.
we would value.
I'll make copies.
Thank you.
Do we wanna create a filing system there?
I think,
All this
yeah,
stuff,
yeah, I mean,
That's available for everyone.
yeah,
yeah, are you thinking digitally or,
yeah,
yeah,
no, because I use that we can.
like, Google Drive?
Yeah.
Or something
That's a
like
good
that. I'm open to that as well. Are we all comfortable with the Google platform
Yeah.
to do that? Okay.
Mhm.
We should probably make sure that sort of filing system is appropriate with,
Yeah,
you know, within our, the limitations that we have as, public meetings and everything like that.
There's city has base camp is what it's called.
Okay,
It's like
I use Basecamp, yeah.
in the conservation. Committee for the Conservation of the Environment uses base camp and they're another board, so I don't think there should be any issue with having you guys use that as well if you want.
Yeah,
It's a project management type thing, but you could, pretty sure there's like a filing system. I'm not super familiar, but there's.
there's a learning curve with
Yeah.
Basecamp, but it's robust. There's a lot of
online
different.
platform.
So-
Yeah, you can do, have calendaring things in there and different groups
Okay.
and topics and
Mhm.
messaging
Right.
boards. I think that would be effective.
Yeah, that would be
if we can get a license for that. Is that something that you'd be able to look into us, or would you want to refer us
Yeah.
to someone?
I will. I'll look into it. Well,
Okay.
like
Why
add
do they
you,
use Basecamp?
why?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's keeps you guys in like the city server type world.
No, I got
Oh.
that, why does the city use Basecamp as opposed to any other platform, why did they choose that one?
I don't, it predates my time, I don't, but I know, I think the planning department and maybe the planning commission uses it to just
Hmm.
manage everything that they have going through. Just management software. I'm sure somebody looked it up and thought it was better than what else was out there, maybe it's more affordable.
My impression of it, having used it on other projects, is that it keeps things more organized and out of email, so that we're not digging through tons and tons of emails through. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right, it's more, there's more of a message board, so we can break stuff down by
Yeah.
topic. And address things that way. And there's also a filing system on there where, we would be able to upload the documents that are relevant to us.
Okay, I don't know anything about Basecamp, so
Yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to understand, someone's gonna have to help me, what would be
I've never used
the
it, either,
document.
but
yeah,
I mean,
process.
the more you just go into it, start clicking away.
yeah.
That's-
Yeah, there's
It's
not
like
much to
learn.
mess up, but. Yeah, but I'd certainly help with that if we're open to using it.
Mhm.
Maybe we see if it's available. We kind of get a glimpse of it and decide whether it's right for us.
Right.
Mhm.
Does that work for a plan? To,
That's fine, I mean, I think that probably we could use it because it keeps us in
The city
the
server.
city
Yeah.
server that way,
yeah,
we're only here for 2 years and then. somebody else
Right.
started coming here.
okay. Well, I think that also brings us to organization. I think I for one see that that is a major thing that we should be tackling. Soon is. How are we going to structure this complaint process? In what form do we receive complaints? How timely? I had a conversation with, the New York State, DHR, and they suggested that we reach out to other local boards and commissions to get copies of their process.
Yeah.
And so I think that we'll move on to, well, we will talk about doing that. But in the meantime, I think you know, we need to do some other brainstorming about what this process might look like.
I think it'll be helpful, I mean, I can show you what the process, if I could download the information.
Yeah,
I can show you the process that we have
yeah,
before, and that might be a good place for us to start. Instead of
Certainly.
starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's actually.
right.
Reinventing the wheel, not
Right.
needed.
Yeah, so,
So what was used in the past?
you know, this is probably not a good night to ask me those kinds of questions.
I know you're under the.
Yeah,
But you'll receive.
we had an intake form that people filled out,
Okay, submitted.
you know, they submitted online, right?
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
just think even online.
You know,
form.
and we had a process for like who would respond, who's gonna respond, people acknowledging that we received it.
Right.
Almost like an on-call thing between the 7 of, I would think that, you know. It might be this my week to respond to people, so they get a timely response,
Yeah,
and then, you know, something like that.
We can do like an automatic response, just, you know.
Oh, I know,
first-
yeah,
yeah.
First
Yeah.
confirming, you
Yeah.
know, the
That's
complaint has
true.
been received, you know.
You can
whatever
expect a
information- you can
response
expect a
from-
response
in this
from-
amount of time.
So I
And
mean,
then-
there's, I
and
mean,
then
that
from-
piece, and then
Yeah.
at one point you have to actually set an interview.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, that after that's submitted, we should I think that we should make it a habit to discuss, regardless of what the complaint is.
Mhm.
Yeah, of course, yeah,
To have that discussion first amongst the entire council. Get feedback from each party, notate, take notes, you understand, take it further wherever we need to,
Mhm.
you know, go through that process. And then first give a response,
Mhm.
and then have some kind of intake where we schedule them in. Where
Well, I
they,
think you gotta interview first, right, because sometimes the response on paper is not that clear.
Mhm.
Because you might have a couple of times where you're actually meeting with people to make sure, but, I mean, there's the intake response,
Mhm.
which is not gonna give them enough time to give you all the,
Okay.
they could do as much details as they want,
Right,
right,
right.
depending on people's comfort level with digital platforms.
that's true.
So as it
So-
comes in.
Yeah.
then we
So having
communicate
somebody
to
just
schedule.
do an interview on that, and that was often like a telephone interview, they call you up and. You know, just like, you know, this is, we read and this is how we
Mhm.
saw this is our understanding, we wanna make sure
Right,
we understand exactly what happened, so can you give us more details of what I'm clear about here? And then they'll know that we'll be getting back to the next steps and stuff like that, and then coming back to you and saying, this is the process.
I really like, I don't know how, I mean, the telephone is good, but. A lot of times during that intake process, you know, you're gonna get, depending on the, you know, the questions that you ask, you know. You receive or don't receive, um. Enough information.
Right,
You
so
know,
I think
yeah.
sometimes it's more than just one thing, depending on what the
Yeah.
complaint is, but also. I think my experiences was that people don't wanna see you up front, 'cause they
Okay.
don't know who you are, right?
Mhm.
So if
Good
you
point.
get some information and when you. Reach back out to go and see them, you see them like, you know, recover back to see, because. So we can develop a game plan of what
Right,
to do
yeah.
next, you know, these are the kinds of things I'm thinking about. Cause when you do that initial kind of interview, you get some more information, people were generally pretty good about. You know, giving us information, you know. And you're right, at some point, if they're open to it. You know, it would be good to do a face-to-face interview, right, because sometimes people are really. They're concerned about that. You know, and now that we are faces that are out there, right? But we show up in someone's face. You know.
I wouldn't do that.
It might have, no, we don't just show up, I'm just saying that.
Yeah. I mean,
They might not feel comfortable, like, you know, we're not meeting people in clandestine dark halls or anything
Yeah.
like that, but I'm saying that we wanna have them guide. You know, that information, be a part of guiding information, gathering the process.
So usually when all of my caseworkers that I have trained for intake,
Yeah,
we have the client come in, and I agree with you, especially for something like this, because it's human rights, it's, you know, discrimination violation. But we have cases where, let's say, political asylum. I might be on the phone with a client and I'm, you know, and they're not answering. I get much further when they come into the
oh,
office.
no, I.
You know,
agree with you. Yeah,
area where they're comfortable.
I agree.
You know, where there's people, there's a staff, it's open, and they can express, you understand, each thing, and I can engage them and also make them comfortable. Because a lot of people, if they're not comfortable, there isn't a level of trust or some, you know, within that moment, you know, depending on what you say, they're gonna possibly just close up, shut down.
I think, I think that you raise a good point in that making people feel comfortable and heard, absolutely. And keeping in mind different thresholds that we need to meet.
Yeah.
You know, there's a threshold. After that initial phone conversation, all right, does this meet? Does this meet the threshold of us having an in-person meeting, all right, either one-on-one or invite, you know, a group meeting with all of us? And ultimately working on, does this meet the threshold to refer to the state? So I think that. You know, perhaps something like that.
I mean, I
would
think
give us
there
that
are cases where people, you know, and of course, my hand is like not here, but. I mean, I can remember us having to actually take forms for people to fill out, because they couldn't do it digitally. At
Mhm.
least that wasn't something they could really do. You know, and so that, it
Yeah.
again, might be the first time, is when we're taking a form, let's say. So it wasn't just like you get online and create the form, there should be like a phone number that they can call.
Well,
And there needs to
absolutely.
be like some way to,
I wonder if it would be appropriate for us to have forms available at the city clerk's office. For people to fill out,
So that's a great idea.
and
I think we had them there, we had them throughout the community, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
Everybody's had a role up there.
right,
The city clerk's office, so, you know. There are community spots where, you know, people will gather, where we had.
Yeah, I mean, the thing too is, this is similar to like if you mark some form of marketing or advertising. Everybody's, a lot of people, I would say everybody, a lot of people on social media, a lot of people, most have some form of electronic device. And once they get the information, you know, if it's, you know, the more we put it out there in regards to, okay, look, this is available for you. In the center, or for someone that you know, or for, you know, something within your community. It's as easy as copy, cut, paste, send, you know, put the link. And like you said, we're not expecting them to give full description of everything. Like every Thursday we have clients, client intakes, take for sessions. And these are just clients that got online, got onto the website and put in what's the purpose of their, you know, why do they need to come in? What do they need? What assistance do they need? Name, phone number, information. When they come in, that's when we fully engage them. That form is, you know, sheet of case notes, you know, it's fully, and then from there they leave, we schedule them for another appointment. And then I take all of that and I'm sitting with respective, you know, departments to see, okay, who needs to handle what, who's more skilled, you know, so I'm just saying that if we're able to get that information out there, this is how you.
Yeah, I think the information will go out there relatively quickly, but you bring a good point up, because last time they had a Human Rights Commission was about 2016. So that's years ago. So a lot of the community probably doesn't even know it exists. So, you know, getting the community aware that we're actually here is a good starting point. And as far as like how to make the complaint, I think the hard copy is a great idea. Putting them in the city clerk's office, coming up with a website, or putting some type of platform where people can go on and make complaints digitally also. I think those two things would probably be enough just in the infancy of starting up, and then we can kind of tweak it if we need to, figure out like, okay, this isn't really working, and kind of go from there.
right,
I just want to caution us, because I deal with people every single day that couldn't click that link. I mean, they would not,
yeah,
they could not,
Yeah, I'm sure.
they really, they just couldn't, and they, so we want to make sure, I mean, it feels like everybody is.
Yeah, and I think that the hard copies could be a, you know, substitute for that for the people who have a difficult time with technology. That's why, and we really have to emphasize that we have both things available. So when they get on there, maybe even on the website saying like, if you're digitally, you know, you know, you're not technologically sound, and we do have hard copies of this complaint form at these locations.
Are we willing to take those forms to them?
I mean, I think there's 7 of us, and I think that you know, like in theory, I think we would love to do that, but we really don't know how many complaints we're going to get. I
I
mean,
mean, it's like well, I don't know, this is a different time.
that's what I'm
so-
saying.
Could be mail too.
It could be mail,
Yeah.
yes, good idea.
Could be
And then we
mail.
can put that on there too, like, hey, if you need one mailed to you, right? So I think we have ways to make sure people get them.
The other thing too is we have like, we got hundreds of people that come to the market survey every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, we can keep forms there.
right. We can,
Keep forms. at
that's another great idea. We can
Blackbird, you know, places where people.
partner with
frequent.
different agencies, different community members and say, hey, you know, we know that you work with a vulnerable population. These are some forms that, you know, however it looks, and kind of go
I
from
think
there.
it's important to, not to cut you off, you know, I mean, I would like to create some type of logo. You understand, some type of letterhead. I mean, as opposed to client intake form, you know,
Right,
something.
Yeah,
professional.
aesthetically pleasing,
Yeah,
or aesthetically
professional, I
professional.
mean, the more professional we are, the more serious.
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah,
How, so I think it would be. You know, I'll go back to the meeting, at least be able to map out what the process was last time, the forms that we used. And then, I think we need to have like, I'm like a flow chart person. So I need to see what the flow
What it look like, yeah.
yeah.
I get
Yes,
that.
so.
Well, one thing that we can absolutely do is reach out to some of these other local bodies that are already
That's what they're
established.
doing, yeah.
And figure out what, you know, how are you getting your complaint forms out? How are you getting the word out? How are you receiving complaints? So we may not have to entirely reinvent the wheel.
No, right,
I'd
right.
also like to know, like, what's the quantity, you know, cause I don't know, you know, I don't think we're really rocking at the ACA, but it could be. Depending on what's,
Yeah,
it's a different world right now than it was.
so, you know, and if we kind of jump out of turn for a second now, I can speak to that. Temporarily going down to section 8 training education. I spoke with the head trainer of the New York State Division of Human Rights, Megan Ginsburg. And she's willing to give us an overview of their agency at either one of our meetings or a scheduled time. She's willing to come in the evening. It's kind of more overview than training, but she'll talk to us about what constitutes discrimination in New York State, what are the protected classes that we need to be keeping an eye out, because they may differ from the city of Binghamton's, and also what are the elements needed to prove it. So what are they looking for that where it might meet the criteria for them to be able to investigate, and how do they choose what to take and what not to take. And so she'll be able to give us an overview of that. Now, the reason I jumped ahead is to answer your question. I asked, well, what are the gold star, the gold standard local commissions that don't do their own investigation, but do referrals so that we can go on that. And she said they haven't had a referral from a local body in a long time.
She's
Yeah.
I think it's gotta be some of both, right? I mean, we've gotta do some investigation here, cause this is our town. You know, and to get a sense of what's going on. To
Yeah.
help them be able to kind of form the,
It's my understanding, we're not an investigative.
no, I'm not investigating, just gathering
Yeah.
information, we don't gather any information.
I-
I'm not saying we're gonna be out there.
I think that we can certainly gather information in order to package, but as far as talking to third parties and going out and
Yeah, no,
that's-
but I
Because
think,
I'm glad you bring it up, because I was
Yeah,
wondering the same
let's
thing, how do we figure out?
but the
what to
people
bring
that
if you
are
can't, like-
making, that we're taking place for, right, you know, I think. What we're learning, they should be able to. They'll learn from that, right, because we're gonna learn like, what are the things they need to be able to demonstrate in order for this to be a viable case.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what they're gonna teach us.
And we need to be able to share that with people who are making
Right,
So,
and the process, what they can expect from
Yeah.
the state if it does get referred.
So prior to the meeting, I was doing some, just looking at New York State law or human rights law, kind of kept figuring out, what really is and all the stuff that it entails. And one of the things I came across was like because it's an issue that we are faced with in our county. And it was like source of income discrimination for housing, right? And so I looked into it. And basically what it means is that landlords can't really discriminate against where you get your money from. So if you're receiving Department of Social Services, and they're paying your rent. Because what happens in often is you might call a landlord and say, hey, I'm looking for an apartment for this person that I'm working with.
Yeah,
And the landlord says, well, I don't take DSS. So it's my understanding that's a human rights violation. Now, my question, let's just say, for instance, that I'm reading it correctly. So if we get in a complaint like that, so we just kick that up the chain to do we just say, okay, this is, once we determine it's actually a human rights violation, then we refer that whole case just to Albany or New York State?
I think it'll be real difficult to try to make any determinations. Like, I'm following you,
Okay,
but the example that you gave, for example, going into, let's say, the elements that would fulfill, trying to find the elements.
but I don't think that's our responsibility.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, but what is so I know what you're gonna say, it's
Yeah.
like, it's gonna be hard to find the evidence and with a landlord saying that he said that, right? I understand that, but like, if we can't investigate, then that's gonna be the case for every complaint. Someone's gonna come to us with a complaint and if we can't look into it, because I'm not gonna call a landlord to ask me if he said that.
Yeah.
But by the standard of the law, just by him saying that constitutes a human rights violation. So if we get a complaint like that, I'm just curious as to what is our next step, just to kick this up the ladder to the Human Rights Commission and help.
yeah, and I think that, we might reach some productive discussion on that. In executive session,
Okay,
to discuss
I'll suss that out, yeah.
with citizens, yeah.
I think it's gonna be interesting for us to talk to these other petitions to see what they
Yeah.
do. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't know that we just kicked stuff up to Albany last time.
What did you? Or what
We
did the
actually,
commission-
we would write articles, we would call press conferences,
Mm.
we would expose things that were going on. I mean, and maybe maybe we weren't supposed to do that, but that,
It doesn't sound like it, and I mean,
Yeah, it
just
just
because it
sounds
seems like you would
yeah.
alienate some of the places that you probably had to work hand in hand with often at some point, because some of them places are going to be the ones receiving the complaints. So I think that us taking a stance like that I think that's what the mayor's worried about. I mean, I do. I think that's probably what he's concerned with, because if, for instance, we got a complaint from somebody and we started going into the press and doing kind of like a citizen action thing, which is I'm not disparaging them, because I think they do wonderful work, but they do different work than what we do. I think they're an advocacy and we're a commission.
yeah, no, I don't think we were organizing protests and things of that sort, right? But I think we didn't just send stuff up to Albany about having some idea of what's going on.
Well, there's an education component
Yeah.
to, an education and outreach component to us as well,
Right.
right?
And I think that was our educating community with doing outreach component.
Yeah, don't take offense. I'm just trying to figure out what the process is, right?
And I'm thinking too, like, we're functioning in a capacity, let's pretend like the council doesn't, there's no council. Right, the average citizen, they don't know where to go, they don't know who to turn to, what to write, who to say, so we're kind of assisting them, like a liaison. Where we're gathering all the information. After the trainings, we're more informed because we could read and understand what the elements are and what looks good enough. I'll say, I don't want to say to make a determination that, yeah, you fulfill, such and such.
Right, there's not a criteria.
Right.
I know what you're saying.
So I'm just saying that it would be really helpful for that person, those people. After we've gathered all that information, after we've had all those discussions and then we're presenting as a body. You understand? That's how I'm seeing it.
I think we gotta be able to do something that's gonna be helpful and useful to the person that's making a complaint, right? Not just, otherwise we could have a bunch of secretaries in here taking stuff and just send it to all of them. We don't need this, you know, that's,
Yeah.
that's, if we're just taking stuff and sending it to all of them. We don't need all
Yeah,
this.
that's what I'm trying to figure out, because I was just stuck.
But I think part of the, in learning what this is supposed to look like is to find out what's going on. I mean, I'm curious as to why other places have not stayed there up to all.
Right.
Right, and you know, I also don't know. You know, how many of those places are also have an investigative component to them that we don't. And how much they might be resolving locally too, because I do envision that maybe there's things. If the parties agree that don't have to be sent to Albany. If there are, you know, if we're looking to. Change hearts and minds. on a
Conflict
situation.
resolution.
Yes, mediation, that sort of
Mediation
thing.
and conflict resolution, you know,
Yes.
because sometimes people, you know, they're angry and upset just the fact that they've been dismissed
Mhm.
and they don't have no out. So that's a really good point.
Yeah,
That in my background in police oversight, that was one of my favorite tools, because those situations are so ripe for misunderstandings. That we had the ability to, if everyone agreed, refer a case for mediation. And they sit down and talk about it, and. You know, maybe people learn a little bit more out of those situations than they would out of a state investigation. You know, because ultimately, you know, you would hope that somebody would be like, oh, you know, maybe I should have handled that differently.
And then there's two sides to every story. too.
Sure, yeah.
What happened, what transpired, you know. It to escalate to this point
Right.
on both sides.
Yeah,
What was said, what was done.
so there could be local resolutions. Like you said, you know. Here that don't involve referring everything to Albany. But, so I have identified, a couple of. Just by Googling, you know, it seems as though, commissions exist in Albany, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, Yonkers, Schenectady. Would be a good start. I mean, are we comfortable divvying those up and making calls,
Yeah.
or?
Seems to Albany,
Albany, Buffalo,
I'll take that one.
you'll take Buffalo, you've got connections.
you got connections up there.
Yeah. I spent a couple of years up there too. I do like Buffalo.
Albany, you said,
Albany, I can reach out to Albany.
Okay. Right, was it Rochester?
Buffalo, we've got Syracuse, Rochester,
I can do Syracuse.
okay.
I could Rochester also if I need to, if we need to.
Albany, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, any other?
Yonkers, I believe, and Schenectady. And this is just a Google search, so, maybe it's not gonna pan out.
Right,
but
right, but.
These
worth a
are
shot.
starting
Mhm.
points. Yeah, I'll call Schenectady as well.
So I got Syracuse and
Yeah,
Rochester, just.
Okay,
you found them right online.
yeah. And if you're not finding what I was finding, let me know and I'll see if I can send you a link. Okay. So I think once we gather more information there, we see what was happening before, we might be in a better position on our next meeting to. Figure out what we want to do and how we want this to look.
Mhm.
Anything else? On this before we move on, to email address,
The second, stop.
okay, we will move quickly. So, I did speak to the clerk's office, and city council about an email address. And it seems as though we might be able to get an email address if it's routed to the clerk's office.
Okay.
And then the clerk's office can distribute it then. And I think that kind of keeps it on the servers.
Yeah,
And I think it seemed to be an acceptable solution to me. Does everyone else seem?
that works for me.
Okay.
Is that where people would send their information? And what's cause we're an independent body, right? If people are making complaints against the city and they're gonna route it to those, I mean.
Well, perhaps that wouldn't be the complaint process, but if people have questions, if we're interacting with members of the community, if people have, we should be available. Okay. In light of our hard stop, I do want to be sensitive to our schedules here. And if we can entertain a motion to move into executive session, just so that we can cover some important things. Does anyone make that
Yeah,
motion?
I make the motion to move into executive
Second,
session.
do we have a second?
Second.
Here, second, Mr. Adams. Okay, and we are finished with executive session, moving on to public comments. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment? Seeing none, moving on. Do we want to set a next meeting before we move to adjourn? Do we want to look 2 weeks again, or?
I think that probably would be a good idea. And no, I wouldn't do it any later than 2 weeks. But it's, up to your guys' availability.
So we would be looking in March 27th. Does anyone see any reason to meet sooner than that?
I sit on another board.
Okay.
So,
You're just checking schedule?
Yeah.
That meeting is on the 27th?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's my board, so I have to be there.
Yeah, sure.
Fair enough.
Yes,
But does it have to be on Thursday? Is there another day that week?
I mean, I just can't do Monday and Wednesday because I work till 6:30 on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Yeah, Wednesdays are better for me.
But Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays.
I've got another board meeting Tuesday the 25th. But I can do, you said you can't do Monday, Wednesday,
Yeah, Monday and Wednesdays I work until 6:30.
so what about Thursday, so
That's
Tuesday.
it, yeah.
What about Friday?
Friday, Friday the 28th.
Friday's period is not.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
Well, what about going 3 weeks to
Yeah, we might have to.
to April 3rd?
I would have to, I'm gonna be away from the 3rd for 2 weeks. So my availability is anywhere from now till the 28th, 29th.
Do we want to try for next week, the 20th?
Yeah, I could do that.
Programming the AC at 6:30 next week, Thursday.
That's the 20th.
We're looking at Thursdays, what day we looking?
The 20th is
I think
days?
Thursdays and
Tuesdays, Thursdays or Friday, well, Tuesdays and
you
Thursdays.
can't do Tuesdays. Yeah, so Thursdays are our day.
Thursdays are our day.
Thursdays are our day.
That's the day. So it's either gonna have to be the 3rd.
20th or the 27th. Thursday.
Oh, yeah, because he can't interfere. We don't have to push it out.
The 27th is, yeah.
You can't do 27th.
Let's see, April 10th.
The 20 week. I mean, I can do the 20th if we did it earlier. Like 5 p.m.
I could do 5.
I think 5 p.m. could work.
Okay, do 5 minutes.
All right, cool, perfect.
I would just have a 6 p.m. hard stop. Get back over there. 6:30.
Okay. I'm hoping the 5 p.m. can be kind of an anomaly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't normally be, 6 is normally better for
Yeah,
me, but
yeah.
I can do the 20th. The next week at 5 p.m. Right?
All right, that works,
Okay.
yeah,
I
that's,
will alert the clerk. We'll get minutes in. We'll do that. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
yeah, motion to adjourn,
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
all right.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.